If there is one genre of movies which I have liked a lot over the years, has to be the horror genre. This is perhaps the most dynamic and the most versatile genre ever known to me. Imagine this: haunted houses, haunted cars, serial killers, aliens from outer space, animals turning into humans, humans turning into animals, and the possibilities are endless. The horror genre has definitely intrigued my interest as an aspiring filmmaker for the last couple of years, and this video is made to give a tribute to that very spirit of what horror instilled inside me. Hey there, everybody, how's it going? This is John Matthew, and you're watching CineMania 24/7, the channel dedicated to movies, music, physical media, books, video games, and pop culture. Given that this is Halloween month and we are going to talk only about horror movies, this is my first attempt to make a listicle video where I will be telling you about all the horror movies that you may give a try this particular Halloween. And without any further delays, guys, please subscribe to my channel so that I keep making more videos. So anyway, back to the video. This particular list that you see here has been curated as a result of years of watching horror movies and consuming horror for a great part of my adulthood and late teens. This list consists of movies which I've seen for at least 5 to 6 years now, and some of which I just watched once. I'll try to give them a watch once again so that we can make a review video out of it sometime, or some years, or some months, or some weeks down the line. Yes, so this is the list of 10 horror movies that you may watch this Halloween. And mind you, this is just a personal list, not exactly reflective of anybody's taste, or not exactly reflective of a certain director or certain motive or whatsoever. It is just a personal curated list. So without any further delays, let's hop on to number 10 on the list, which is one of my most favorite films of all time. Up here on number 10 is the movie Amityville Horror. The original 1979 film, to which I own the DVD of, has to be one of the best horror movies of all time. Although this film was panned by critics initially when it released, the performances by James Brolin and Margaret Kidder from the Superman fame definitely has elevated the movie in my eyes for all these years. The movie has this certain mystical quality that makes it very distinct from slasher movies like Halloween and Friday the 13th that just came after this film. The Amityville Horror, of course, has a massive franchise worth of movies to watch, but if ever you feel like visiting the other parts of the movies, please skip them. The first movie is the only film that you need to watch in order to get a good glimpse of what the franchise is and what it has become over the years. That is number 10 for me, the movie The Amityville Horror from 1979. We now go on to number 9 on the list. Up here on number 9 is the movie Pet Sematary, which came out in 1989 and is an adaptation of a Stephen King novel of the same name. The movie is not exactly a very good film when you talk about acting or performances, but the sheer atmosphere creation and the shock value that it has, at least in some of the scenes of the film, is worth the watch. There are moments in this movie where you will actually freak out looking at the kind of stuff they were trying to pull off. Although this isn't exactly as good as other Stephen King adaptations that were contemporarily released at the same time as this film, or even after this movie, but it still has a certain quality that makes you wonder why don't they make horror movies like this anymore. This would be number 9 on the list, which is Mary Lambert's Pet Sematary, which of course has a lot of merit outside its acting and performances sector, only in the jump scares and the thrills. We now move on to the 8th movie of the list, which is a John Carpenter film. Number 8 on the list is The Fog, another John Carpenter movie that does not usually get discussed in the grand scheme of things when we talk about John Carpenter's film career, because most of the times the laurels often go to films like They Live or Halloween or The Thing or Prince of Darkness, and even In the Mouth of Madness for that matter, but this is a movie that never really gets that kind of mention. The Fog has a very interesting premise, and almost all the actors from Halloween have been just simply repeated from that particular 1978 movie. The film has a very interesting premise, and the atmosphere creation for most of the part works really well. I have watched this movie at best only 2 times now, and this Halloween I'm going to rewatch it again only in order to feel the chill and the thrills once again that I felt almost 2 years back. So this is number 8 on the list, being John Carpenter's The Fog. Up here on number 7 is the movie Stigmata, which is a 1999 supernatural horror movie. And trust me, this is a movie that I've seen only twice or thrice. And it isn't exactly the best horror movie in terms of acting or execution or script, but there is something about the film that still makes me watch it every time when I want to. For very long, I've been trying to get the DVD and the VCD copy for this movie, but yet nothing has come to my hands. I'm not a fan of the performances of the movie as well, but for some reason, the biblical elements of horror that they tried to create and some of the visual effects have stuck out really well after all these years. Although there was an Indian movie that tried to copy this, of course, we might talk about that Indian movie sometime in the next month or the preceding few months. But then again, Stigmata has an interesting premise, although it could have done a lot better with the execution, the acting, and the choice of cast as well. That is number 7 for me, Stigmata, which came out in 1999. Number 6 on the list is The Car by Elliot Silverstein. Imagine this, a small town in Utah being terrorized by a car whose occupant is not known to anybody. Nobody exactly knows what the car is, where it came from, who's driving it. A bunch of police officers are supposed to stop this madness before it gets way too serious. People keep dying left and right. Too many elements seem very scary, although the movie can be criticized for its lack of good dialogue or proper acting from most of the cast members, if you only exclude James Brolin, by the way, who is one of the biggest highlights of this film. The Car has been a movie which I've been watching for the last 9 years right now, and even when I watched it a couple of months back, I found it very interesting. I'll make a dedicated review about this particular movie sometime soon, but this is the 6th movie that I will be definitely watching this Halloween, not for the performances, not for the acting, but for the sheer terror that a car can cause. So that's The Car. Up here on number 5 is a John Carpenter classic from the Apocalypse trilogy called In the Mouth of Madness, a movie starring Sam Neill from the Jurassic Park fame. This is a film that is like Stephen King imagined in a special different universe where we see that his books are turning into reality. A very interesting premise, a very interesting execution, although there are parts of the film which I feel that have not aged well and could have done better under different circumstances. But nonetheless, what really makes this movie so good is the sheer idea and of course the conceptual execution of this movie, which is one of the biggest highlights of John Carpenter's career at this point. His movie career never really did well after this movie though, but then again, that's completely a different video for a different day. John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness has definitely got to be the last time we ever see the cool John Carpenter take center stage. It's a great movie, and trust me, I loved it. This is number 5 for me. Up here on number 4 is another Sam Neill movie called Event Horizon. I first saw this movie only 3 months back, and trust me, the premise of this movie is one of the best sci-fi horror premises I've ever seen in my entire life. Think about this. A spaceship lost for too many years, suddenly found by another hunting party, only to see that a lot has changed on the spaceship and too much is already at stake. Very great. I don't know why this movie never really gets that kind of mention in horror circles or sci-fi circles. It did have a very interesting premise. Its rating on IMDb is reasonably okay as well in my understanding, and on top of that, a lot of the times people never really mention this as one of Sam Neill's finest horror works, or let's say one of the finest horror works of the 90s as well. I don't know, it's a very underrated movie, but definitely the premise, the execution, and that ending is a banger even after all these years. So this is Event Horizon for me, and I'm definitely watching it this time. Alrighty, up here on number 3 is The Faculty, which you already have seen the movie review on my channel. The Faculty is a cool movie. Me and my sister have watched it for years now, and trust me, this is one of those films that has stuck out like a sore thumb even after all these years. A very interesting and relatable premise, and a premise that is not very original though. It takes a lot of inspiration from Invasion of the Body Snatchers and The Breakfast Club. It's basically a combination of both those movies, but nonetheless, the acting performances by most of the cast, the execution, the thrills, and of course that ending has to be one of the most memorable sci-fi horror endings of all time. Elijah Wood as the protagonist and Robert Patrick as one of the antagonists of the movie has done a fantastic job even after all these years. I'm watching Faculty once again to relive all those memories that I had from 4 years back, and I hope you will watch this too and like the movie. So that is number 3 on the list, The Faculty. Alright, number 2 goes to a very unconventional and a very otherwise unheard movie, which is called The Entity. I saw The Entity last year when I was in college, and trust me, this is a movie that I never really expected to like. It had a very weird premise, a very different kind of story, a horror movie which is really good in terms of the concept that it wanted to tell us about. But then again, the execution in some places goes a little haywire, and on top of that, the duration of the movie was way too long for a horror film. In my understanding, a lot of the horror movies during the 70s and 80s were very short and not exactly more than 1 hour 50 minutes or at best 2 hours, but this was a movie that was almost 2 hours long, so that takes away a lot of the charm of the horror movie of that particular period, because they were all short and very hard hitting. This is a movie that I've only appreciated in the later years as I started watching it and reading the reviews about it. But yeah, it's a great movie. That's number 2, called The Entity. And finally, the movie that I'm going to watch on number 1 is John Carpenter's Halloween. My god. When I first saw this movie, I can tell you there were jump scares and all kinds of creepy scenery, which I actually saw in 2021 during the winter, of course. And this is a movie that stuck out with me for a very long time. Trust me, I loved this movie for everything that it was: the execution, the story, the writing, of course, the thrill elements, the serial killer, Michael Myers himself. It was a very good plot and a very good start to John Carpenter's illustrious horror career. Although we can have a different video on why his career never achieved the heights that it was supposed to, but nonetheless, John Carpenter's Halloween is a complete masterclass in filmmaking and, of course, horror as well. For those of you who like to see this movie, please watch it because I am watching it too. Although it's your opinion, but yeah, that concludes the list with John Carpenter's Halloween. So, my dear friends, this is the list of 10 horror movies that I am watching this Halloween, and you may watch them too. Do tell me in the comment section about what you feel about all these films that you've seen, or any of the movies that you wish to me to talk about. I can almost make a video on every one of them if you want. This is the list, and finally, I'm going to watch a movie right now, which will be a part of the 2025 Halloween special. I'm making a new video on that as well. Take care, guys. Bye bye. Please keep buying films on physical media. That's the best and the most amazing way to protect movies for long. Stay safe. Bye bye, and Godspeed.